If you find yourself thinking, what exactly do I do in the first one-on-one with my direct reports? Then don't worry, you're not alone. Let me show you how. Hi, my name is Raf. Welcome to Riser, where my mission is to help you go further faster in your career. Okay, here's the thing. I've got 2 other videos breaking down how to have productive one-on-ones as a manager and as an employee, so feel free to check those out when we're done here. But the reason I put this video together is because your first one-on-one with a direct report is a little different for 3 main reasons. Firstly, it's an opportunity to establish clear expectations and goals and clarify their roles and priorities. Secondly, it's an opportunity for you to agree on your ways of working, which I'll expand on in a bit. And thirdly, just like when you meet anyone for the first time, that first meeting with your direct report will form the basis of their impression of you, which includes establishing authority and trust. Overall, this first meeting sets the tone for the rest of your working relationship, so by getting this right, you'll be setting things up really nicely for both yourself and for them. You know, I find it a little strange that this isn't talked about very much. I mean, so many managers have been through this at some point wondering, what do I do now? And it's something that I've coached pretty much all of my managers on. But we already know from the appalling state of affairs that is so-called on-the-job professional development that most managers don't get much leadership guidance at all, let alone on a topic as specific as this. So I really hope that this helps. And by the way, to help you even more, I've put together a free one-on-one guide as well, but I'll come back to that a little bit later. Firstly, I recommend setting aside a full hour for your first one-on-one so that you and your employee can engage each other properly and not feel rushed. This is very much a getting to know you meeting as much as anything else, so give yourself that time. Now, you don't want to start any meeting without at least acknowledging other people's presence and engaging in a little casual conversation with very few exceptions. An icebreaker like an interesting or funny anecdote or newsworthy item can help, but however you decide to do it, come armed with something to say or ask. A few minutes having casual conversation might seem pointless, especially if you're an INTJ like me, if you're familiar with Myers-Briggs, but it's really not. This chit-chat helps to reduce stress, it helps to build rapport, and it helps to open up the lines of communication for what's to come, not to be underestimated. So spend some time getting to know them and letting them get to know you a little bit as well. There's so many ways to do this. For example, you can ask personal questions to discover what they enjoy doing outside of work, what their hobbies are, what they're passionate about, and so on. And these are also a good segue into their values and goals to find out what's personally important to them and what their aspirations are. Job-related questions to find out what they enjoy most, what they hate doing, what they'd like to learn, etc. And questions to tease out how they like to communicate and also what they'd like to get out of these one-on-ones moving forward. And when they share with you, you share back with them. And hopefully you'll find that you don't need to rely on too many questions to get a good conversation flowing. Then after you get to know each other a little bit, you can then move on by asking them if they have any question about the role or anything else. And then I think it's important to reflect on why their role is so important by talking about the business and what your area are doing and how their work contributes to that. Creating that clear connection between what they do and your goals is super important. So if they don't seem to get it right away, even once you feel you've explained it well, then this is something that you'll need to work on getting across to them as soon as possible in future one-on-ones. After this, make sure you discuss what their priorities are. And remember to keep it simple at the start because you can add details and nuance later. What are the top 2 or 3 things you need them to really focus on above all else? And then let them know what's important to you generally. I'm pretty straightforward. I let my team know right off the bat that I'm really passionate about coaching and development. I'm really passionate about ensuring they have a fun and rewarding career, but that I have high standards and I hold them to high standards. So take some time to think about this beforehand so that you can be specific as to what your expectations are. I'm always clear that I expect actions to be addressed, issues to be raised when they come up so there are no surprises, because I don't like surprises, for them to be on time for meetings, structured in the way they approach their work, and the list goes on. These are some of the things that are important to me, but you're going to need to think about what's important to you. I then recommend discussing your personal ways of working. Now this has to do with your style, your preferences, and your habits. For example, I like to make it clear that if something is important to them or an issue comes up, not to stand on ceremony and to let me know as soon as possible. Another example, in general, I prefer to have face-to-face or video chats instead of emails or chat room conversations. I also like to keep certain times of the day free of meetings, so if at all possible to avoid those times. I also check my emails only a few times during the day, so if something's urgent, they might need to text or message me. It's important to also find out about their ways of working, bearing in mind that you ultimately get to decide on the norms to follow, so make those clear. I then move on to how these one-on-ones are going to work moving forward. As discussed in those other videos I mentioned earlier, make sure these are recurring, either weekly or fortnightly. That's my personal opinion anyway, but there's plenty of research to back this up. Personally, I typically schedule weekly half-hour one-on-ones, but depending on circumstance, you might want to do them fortnightly for an hour. And if you're wondering why you need to invest all of that time, well, I feel strongly that it's important to give your people enough one-on-one face time during the year, because the benefits, as discussed in those other videos, are numerous and they are compelling. Discuss and agree on when these are going to be held and who's going to schedule them. These days, I actually prefer to schedule and own the invites myself so that I can easily shift them around, cancel, or extend them when necessary. And then discuss and agree on an agenda to use moving forward. Again, check out my other videos for details, but I think it's important and respectful to get their buy-in on this from the very beginning. And finally, if during the course of this initial one-on-one there were any actions, like setting up the recurring invites or anything else, then make sure you reiterate these. Even if the only actions are for you, I urge you still to run through them, because it sets a precedent and sends a powerful message that discussions should result in clear outcomes. So now onto a few tips. Firstly, as you can see, you're not going to be able to have a great first one-on-one without preparing properly. It'll demonstrate that you respect their time and that you've put in some effort, which they'll appreciate. But this also helps to set a standard and an expectation for what you would like to see from them moving forward. Secondly, conduct these face-to-face, and if working remotely, on camera. Why? Because you'll pick up on the visual cues. Non-verbal communication is very effective and helps to build trust. In fact, a study by UCLA revealed that only 7% of communication is based on the words used, while 55% is based on body language and 38% on tone of voice. And if we just took eye contact alone, eye contact increases accountability, and studies have shown that people who make eye contact are perceived as more trustworthy, more confident, and more competent. And thirdly, I know I've gone down into quite a bit of detail, and I really don't want you to feel overwhelmed. It's not my intention to overcomplicate things, but from my own personal experience and from coaching many managers over the years, what's often missing is the detail and the reasoning behind why some things are important and other things just aren't. So feel free to use what you think is going to be most useful for you. I'm just laying it all out in a way that hopefully makes logical sense. So I hope that makes sense. Now, of course, all you managers also have managers yourselves. So I've created a free guide on how to make every one-on-one with your manager count, which will help put you in the driver's seat when you have these with your manager. It's my gift to you. Download it, use it. Please come back and let me know if it helped you. There are links below, which will take you to Risevale Business School. Yeah, it's legit. More to come on that later, but once you're there, it's super easy to download, so if you're thinking about it, just take a minute and download it right now to be safe. Before you go, I highly recommend watching my other videos on this topic, linked in the playlist below. And of course, hit like, subscribe, and press the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future episodes when they're released. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend or colleague, helping them to go further faster as well. Till next time, keep rising.